Today, you're going to see the greatest horror movies of all time, those that revolutionized the genre and scarred entire generations. From immortal classics to the most groundbreaking works of modern cinema, this journey will take you through stories that sparked nightmares, set trends, and redefined fear on the big screen. Today on Cine Prime. Hitchcock, the mastermind of suspense, managed to terrify audiences with nothing more than birds. And honestly, the film is still deeply unsettling today. I'm not ranking it higher because, in terms of pure horror, some movies surpass it. But when it comes to tension, dread, and claustrophobia, The Birds is a masterpiece. The film is incredibly immersive, with a narrative and visual style meticulously crafted to pull the viewer into Hitchcock's eerie world, where for some unknown reason, birds begin to attack humans. The result is absolute chaos. An atmosphere of horror where nowhere is safe because even the sky itself has turned hostile. Trust me, I know it sounds ridiculous to think that a bunch of pissed off birds could be scary instead of laughable, but Hitchcock was a genius, and he makes it work. Now we move on to a Spanish found footage masterpiece that completely mastered a unique horror style. Rec follows a reporter and her cameraman as they film a segment at a fire station. During their coverage, a call comes in from an apartment building, and they accompany the firefighters to check it out. What starts as a routine assignment quickly spirals into absolute terror as they realize that a zombie-like epidemic is spreading inside the building. The premise might sound simple, but the execution is what makes a Rec so damn good. It's insanely immersive. The performances are so natural that it genuinely feels like a real news report. The sense of dread builds masterfully as the police seal off the building without explanation, leaving the trapped characters to figure out why. The deeper they dig, the darker and more horrifying the truth becomes. And let me tell you, the ending is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. This movie scared the absolute shit out of me, and that's not something I say lightly. The movie that made everyone terrified of the ocean and sharks. Jaws is one of the most iconic horror films in history, and a survival thriller that completely revolutionized the genre. The story follows a massive great white shark terrorizing the peaceful island of Amity, while a small group of men, led by Chief Martin Brody, set out to hunt it down before it claims more victims. With Spielberg's masterful direction, the tension builds throughout the film, relying heavily on suspense and fear of the unknown. The shark, mostly hidden from view, becomes even more terrifying precisely because we don't see it. And of course, we can't forget John Williams' legendary score. The moment you hear that ominous theme, you just know something bad is about to happen. That soundtrack alone turned Jaws into a cultural symbol of fear. The greatest zombie movie of all time, Dawn of the Dead, is a remake of George Romero's classic, but with a modern and refreshed approach that turned it into one of the best horror films ever made. In this version, a group of survivors takes refuge in a shopping mall after a viral infection turns humanity into bloodthirsty zombies. What sets this movie apart is its relentless pacing. It kicks off with an explosive opening and never lets up. The director masterfully balances high-intensity action with moments of despair and tough moral choices as the characters struggle to survive in a collapsing world. The zombies in this film are fast and aggressive, creating an overwhelming sense of imminent danger. There's no time to breathe. Beyond the horror, the movie also explores themes of humanity, survival, and how people react when society falls apart. It's an absolute must-watch for any horror fan. I watched this film with low expectations, and my surprise was immense. It instantly became one of my favorite horror movies. Directed by Ari Aster, the film introduces a completely new and groundbreaking style of horror. The plot revolves around a family that, for reasons I won't reveal, finds itself in a horrific and completely disintegrated situation where we witness immense suffering in the family members. The narrative and Toni Collette's performance make this drama incredibly immersive and devastating. As certain events unfold, things start to get darker, with disturbingly twisted plot twists and incredibly terrifying moments. There have been few times I've been as terrified as I was by the ending of this film, which contains one of the scariest scenes in cinematic history. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it immediately. It's a masterpiece. Directed by Ridley Scott, Alien is a masterpiece that fused horror with science fiction in a unique way, revolutionizing the genre. The story follows the crew of the Nostromo spaceship, who discover an unknown signal on a remote planet. Upon investigating, they encounter an alien species that becomes a deadly threat to all passengers. What makes Alien so terrifying is its ability to create a constant atmosphere of tension. From the iconic first appearance of the xenomorph to the suffocating claustrophobia of space, Scott creates an environment where fear is palpable and danger lurks around every corner. The film is not only one of the best in horror, but also one of the most influential in the history of cinema, setting the standard for cosmic horror films. With exceptional direction, a tense script, and stunning production design, Alien remains a key reference in the genre.
Sally, I hear something. Stop! Stop!
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the most impactful and disturbing films in horror cinema, inspired by the crimes of Ed Gein. The story follows a group of young people who, after a road trip, end up at the house of a cannibalistic family led by the iconic Leatherface. Upon its release, the film sparked enormous controversy due to its extreme violence and disturbing atmosphere. Although it isn't as graphically intense as many of the films that followed, its psychological brutality and sense of realism made it unbearable for many viewers. It was banned in several countries and received numerous cuts in others, but that didn't stop it from becoming a cult classic. With its almost documentary-like style and low budget, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre redefined the slasher genre and influenced generations of filmmakers. To this day, it remains one of the most intense and terrifying experiences in horror cinema. And personally, it is the movie that scared me the most. One of the best films of all time, and one of Kubrick's finest. The film tells the story of a family who moves to a completely isolated hotel, where Jack begins to suffer disturbing personality disorders. Everything in this movie is perfect, creating a disturbing and unsettling atmosphere. Jack Nicholson's performance, the music, the masterful use of sound, the direction, the lighting. It all culminates in an immersive film that creates a constant sense of danger and a unique type of terror. Kubrick was an incredibly demanding director, and in this movie, he broke the world record for the most takes for a single scene, doing 170 for just one shot. Moreover, during the shoot, actress Shelley Duvall was psychologically abused by the director, which made her cry most of the time. This adds an even darker layer to the film, as it perfectly captures the deterioration of mental health. Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, is one of the most influential films in the history of cinema. Spoiler warning, because this movie is 60 years old, and I can't really discuss it without revealing the plot. This film was groundbreaking for its time, as horror back then was mostly about monsters, and Psycho took terror to a very everyday situation. A motel with the manager being a mentally ill, multiple personality serial killer. This was extremely revolutionary at the time, and to top it all off, Hitchcock had the guts to kill off the protagonist halfway through the film, making the rest of the story revolve around the investigation and the shocking twist at the end. It's true that by now, everyone knows what happens, but in its time, the impact it created was immense. Psycho is still considered one of the greatest films in cinema history. The most incredible thing is that if you watch it without knowing anything, the film starts off looking like a simple story about a woman who steals money and runs away. The whole serial killer plot is one of the greatest twists in history. If you're enjoying this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on what you think. The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin, is not only the best horror movie of all time, but also one of the most shocking films in cinematic history. The story follows Regan, a young girl who begins to display terrifying behavior after being possessed by a demonic entity. Desperate, her mother turns to two priests to perform an exorcism. From its release, the film sparked a wave of collective hysteria. There were reports of people fainting, vomiting, and suffering panic attacks in theaters, while religious groups labeled it as a cursed work. Its rawness, the use of stunning practical effects, and its oppressive atmosphere made it a one-of-a-kind experience. Beyond its cultural impact and the controversy it generated, The Exorcist remains a masterpiece of horror thanks to its incredible direction, flawless pacing, and the iconic Tubular Bells soundtrack. Its influence on the genre is immeasurable, and its legacy continues to terrify new generations. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos, hit like, and comment what you thought.